The infamous YouTuber PewDiePie just released a whole AI workspace, and it's actually really impressive. This is a completely different style of agent than OpenClaw or Hermes agent, and I'm going to walk you through using it completely privately in this video. Now, as you can see here, Odysseus runs locally on your computer. It is entirely self-hosted, and it is marketed as privacy first. But the truth is it's not going to be privacy first if you're using OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepSeek, etc. as your AI provider. So we are going to set up Odysseus using Venice as our provider because Venice does not store any of your chat content. So to get started, we'll simply click this Get Started link on Odysseus, and we copy that code. If you want to do a little more due diligence, check out the GitHub repo and you'll see how there's already 38,000 stars. And here in the README, we can see all the features, everything we saw on the homepage here. So let's open up a terminal. It might be called the PowerShell on your Windows machine. So go ahead and paste that line. And now Odysseus is installed and ready to go. There's one last thing we need to do though, and that is get it running. So basically here, this install command cloned the GitHub repo onto our computer and then changed directories into it. But there's actually more to it than that, which we'll see right here in the README under the Quick Start. Find your operating system, native Linux or Mac OS, Apple Silicon, or Windows, and you're going to need to copy everything that comes after the CD Odysseus. So in this case for Windows, you copy that PowerShell command. If we want to use doc, we'll copy that. On Linux or Mac OS, we copy all this. Or Apple Silicon, we just run this script. I'm on Apple Silicon, so I will copy just that last script launching command. We'll paste that there. We'll see that it is installing Python and everything else it needs to run on Mac OS. And while that's running, I am just installing this straight onto the computer. This is a work computer with no sensitive information. If you are using a personal computer, you might want to consider running it in Docker, as is recommended here. This will put Odysseus in its own container that it can't get out of, so to speak, and accidentally mess anything up on your computer. Just like OpenClaw or Hermes, this is a precaution you might want to take to ensure that the AI doesn't accidentally mess anything up in your machine. Okay, so now I set up my username and I give it a password. And now we'll see in just a few seconds, it will load at this URL in our browser. And now we're done with the terminal. Wasn't too bad. I'll log in. And here we are, Odysseus. Now the first thing I'm going to do is change the theme. I actually am a fan of the more light modes. And this is actually a really cool feature of Odysseus just from the beginning, is you can find a color scheme and vibe that you like. You can also customize every little thing and see exactly what it will look like when you do that. So this theme customizer is just one example of every little detail that Odysseus lets you control and fine tune, as you're going to see in the rest of this video. So here we go. We need to type /setup to get started. /setup. And now, if you already have a provider you want to use, you can just click the provider and it will get you ready to paste your API key. And that's that. But as I mentioned earlier, I want to do this completely privately. I do not want to use any of these providers, except for maybe Ollama, which would run a model locally on my computer. If that's the case, all you need to do is copy this endpoint, which is the Ollama endpoint, and send that off. But Ollama and local models on a laptop may not always accomplish the tasks we want to accomplish, at least with the efficiency or quality we're looking for, which is why I'm going to use Venice. So what I'll do now is I'll actually skip this and just go straight into the settings. And here in Add Models, we see we have nothing set. So if I were to use Ollama or a local model provider, I can just click that, but I'm going to use API. I'm going to type in api.venice.ai /API/v1. And then I'm going to head over here to the Venice API dashboard and generate a new API key. I'll call it Odysseus. I'll give it an optional expiration date or spend limit, and then I'll generate the key. Copy that key with the copy button. Come back here and paste it right in to Odysseus. Click test, and we see that it's online and it found 88 models available. These models you can learn more about right here on the API settings page. You can even organize them by agentic functionality. So if we want an agentic model that does all the things, function calling, reasoning, code, and vision, then we have a good selection here. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But for now, let's click add. And here we go. We have 88 models enabled via Venice. Now, here's a pro tip. If you do have a powerful laptop, you can combine API with local models here. And we'll do that by exiting the settings and heading over here to Cookbook. Now, this is something that's also pretty neat about Odysseus. The Cookbook will tell you what local models will run well on your computer. And you'll see that these are perfect fits by running on the GPU on this Silicon MacBook. Simply click a model and download or run it, and it will download it and start serving it for you. If I click here to the Serve tab, we'll see what I have installed, and I can simply click Gemma 4, and I can change the configuration, which is a little beyond the scope of what we want to do here. But now I can click the ... and I can click Serve and launch Gemma 4. So now if I come back here, we'll see that I have all these API.venice.ai models available to me, as well as my local models. So here, for example, does not show the Venice. That means it is local. So another part of this tab that is important is the dependencies. If you want to edit images, remove backgrounds, and do some really cool stuff with Odysseus, you're going to need to come to this dependencies tab and click install on some of these tools. So for example, REMBG is AI background removal for the image editor, which we'll get into later. AI denoise and upscale, same thing. We can just install that and you'll see it will download and install everything for you. Really convenient, really pretty easy here. You might need tmux first if you're on Mac OS. If you want to do browser automation, check out Playwright. And then diffusers here is image generation pipelines, which will help you make and edit images. So in case you run into issues later, don't forget about this tab. So now if I come back here, we'll see that I have all these API.venice.ai models available to me. So here, for example, does not show the Venice. That means it is local. So before we start having some fun, let's actually head back into the settings here, and we can see now that we have Gemma 4, our local model here, as well as API.venice.ai. So everything is now available here through Odysseus. So now let's start configuring a little bit here in the AI defaults menu. So we've got our default model. Now we have a drop down here of all the models. If you want to learn more about the models, see how much they cost, see what they're good at, just browse through the model list here. Minimax M3 just came out, for example. Very fairly priced, especially if we compare that to something like Claude Opus. $30 output versus $1.20 output per million tokens. So why don't we play with Minimax today as our default chat model? We find Minimax M3. Let's add a fallback. Now this fallback can either be local or via Venice. I'll have the fallback be one of my favorite models, Kimi K2.6, which as we see here is a very capable agentic model. Not quite as cheap as Minimax M3, but a good dependable model for agentic purposes. Now here we see the utility model. This recommends a local endpoint. These are quick API calls that don't necessarily need to be super intelligent. So let's use a local endpoint here. We'll just go straight Gemma 4. We'll save money. We'll have this run locally. Gemma 4 runs, in my experience, very quickly locally. Vision model, we'll just let that stay on auto detect. But if we come back here, we'll see Minimax does do vision, so we shouldn't have a problem there. Now, research model. As we're going to see in a moment, deep research is a big part of Odysseus. So we want to make sure we are optimized for that. So when we do deep research, I'm actually going to choose Claude Opus 4.8. We're just going to go all the way here because I want to get just the best research possible. So it's going to cost a little more, but the great part of just using one API key with Venice is that we can have all these different models, frontier, open source, private, anonymous, all through one provider. Very convenient. I'll choose DuckDuckGo as my search, and I'll leave everything else as the default. We'll leave the tool call limit default. And here's something really neat, which is teacher model. When a self-hosted student fails an agent mode task, escalate to a state-of-the-art teacher that writes a skill so the student can do it next time. This is actually really cool and really convenient. I'm going to choose Claude Opus 4.8 to be the teacher model, which means if Minimax or Kimmy or even Gemma messes something up and can't do it right, Opus will come in and create the skill file to make it easier for these agents to do it the next time. So you're paying once for the price of the frontier model to build for you, but it's allowing you to execute with the open source, more economical models. So now we have our AI defaults set. Now, while we're in the settings, I'll just introduce you a little bit to everything else going on. We can choose our search provider. I am a fan of DuckDuckGo, but we can see search engine here. It's actually self-hosted, which can be cool. I'll leave this at DuckDuckGo just because I don't actually have search engine installed. So we're going to choose DuckDuckGo. We click test and we get 5 results. It's working. Integrations. This will not be part of this video today, but we can add any API service as an integration. Say we want to send emails. Say we want to connect to a password manager, our Home Assistant app, GitHub, any Git service like Git. Any API integration you can connect here. No problem. You also have CalDAV calendar services. You can import your contacts. You can connect your email provider like Gmail. You can also connect any MCP tool. So Odysseus is very configurable. Very powerful. Speaking of email, once you've added your email account, you can create email tasks, give the AI agent a writing style prompt. For example, I write emails in this style. I don't use exclamation marks. I sign my emails this way, etc. So you can give it a system prompt to write like you. And as we'll see soon, when we go into the tasks more deeply, we can add tasks. So essentially, we can have Odysseus check our email and respond to emails for us the way we want it to. All we got to do is connect our email account and the integrations. Reminders. We can add browser notifications, or once we add an email account, we can even give ourselves email notifications. Odysseus can email us reminders. You can configure every aspect of the appearance. If you don't want your AI to give you emojis, we can shut that off. Do we want web search to be available? Do we want to be able to switch between agent and chat mode, as we'll see soon? Do we want personas, characters? We can also toggle on or off models. So over here, I can just choose in a new conversation, do I want to use API models or do I want to use local models? I can shut that off. Tools. Do we want all the tools here or do we want to hide them? Do we want to keep the brain activated, the cookbook, etc., etc.? Then you have keyboard shortcuts, which can be extremely convenient if you make this your actual workspace. Finally, you can toggle on or off any tools you want to allow Odysseus to use or not. You can create new users and you can import, export, or delete all your data. So that's the settings menu. Odysseus is very configurable. I think that's what makes it so unique in the AI agent framework space. So before we check out the rest of the tools, let's just take a look what the chat looks like. Now we can see that it's a bit more exciting than a lot of chat response windows. We got colors, we got italics, etc. We got icons, maybe not emojis. And we can see how many tokens every message cost and how long it took. Similar to the Venice interface, we also have options to fork the conversation, to edit a response, to regenerate, to rewrite, etc. We can activate the search feature, and it is searching the web with DuckDuckGo. So here we go from 5 web sources. We got a nice little report of what happened today in the news for AI, and that took less than 20 seconds on a local model. Similarly, I can give the agent to a terminal, but we're not going to do that today. One other thing that's neat is you can switch between agent and chat mode. So if you want the agent to do actions, not just search the web, but actually maybe work on your email, for example, send an email, you would toggle over to agent mode. Whereas if you want to just chat, do web research, you would just stay in chat mode. So I'll click this plus to start a new conversation. And one other thing that's pretty fun is prompt injection. So here you can inject a prefix and a suffix to your message, as well as adjust the temperature to get a more creative, perhaps hallucinatory response. But then you can also create a persona. So if you're into characters and you want a friend to chat with, you can give your friend a name. And then I can use the little AI button to expand the basic thing I want. It will create a more detailed system prompt for me. And you'll see there are also some presets available, mostly philosophers. So I'll save and start that persona, and you can see we have the friend persona on, and we're chatting with our friend existing locally. One other thing we can do in this prompt injection menu is create a group chat. So I can have our friend on the local model, but then I can bring in Socrates, and I can give him Claude Opus 4.8, and then I can add in Nietzsche, and we can have him run on, let's say, Grok 420. So now we can start either a sequential or a parallel. I'm going to go with parallel. We'll start the group. We'll say, tell me the meaning of life. And we'll see the icon of each model next to the name, and we'll get an answer from each persona. So we have our Google friend, we have our Anthropic Socrates, and we have our Grok Nietzsche. And we can have a group chat with anyone we want. Now, imagine you want to run a business. You can create your marketer. You can create your social media manager, etc., etc. The opportunities are endless, especially when we see all the tools that we can give Odysseus. So now let's dive into the tools. Here's the brain. Now, Odysseus on its own will create memories by default. So you could import memories in the Add tab, adding files, web pages, whatever it is. And then it will add memories to its brain so it will remember for you. But you can also add skills. And skills are what agents use to know how to perform a specific task. So let's take our Venice API key to the next level and import the official Venice skills. Now these are all skills for your single Venice API key to generate video, generate audio, generate images, make payments, etc., etc. I'll click that code button and I'll download the zip file. And we see here it says no skills yet, use agent for it to auto extract them. So I'll close this. I'll start a new chat. So the first thing you're going to need to do is uncompress that skills file and open up the skills folder. And we'll see all the skills here. And for now, I'm going to take image generate and image edit, and I'm going to drag those here. And I'm going to use Claude Sonnet here, just to make sure this first time it gets it right. We'll say install these skills. Now, if you see this app API fail, it's normal. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't actually mean anything messed up. This is just part of the growing pains of a new agent framework. And boom, our agent installed the skills. So here we are in a new chat. Let's find our default Minimax, and let's say generate an image of Odysseus on his voyage. And now we see it's going to craft a prompt and call the Venice API. Now, it needed a little reminder that it has the Venice image generation skill. I would hope that over time, it will just remember that and cement it into its memory. It's also saying, here is a prompt in case you just want to create it inside the Venice interface. We could just go over here to the agentic chat, paste that prompt and say, make this image, and the Venice agent will just do that for us. Now, the problem here is it looks like Odysseus cannot display images yet. But that said, it can display images in the gallery. So let's see what happens if we say add the image to the gallery. Spelled gallery wrong. Let's see if it... Okay, let's see here. So it looks like images just aren't ready in Odysseus at the time of me recording this. Meanwhile, the Venice agent gives us an epic image. I'll save that. And here, if we head over to the gallery, now's a good time. I'll click upload, and there is our image. We've imported it, and let's click edit. And here we have an editing window. I can zoom in, and let's see what we can do here. I can crop, obviously. We know what that is. We can brush. We can draw things. Whoa. Change color. Not something I really need to do. So let's try background removal here. Click BG remove. And it did a decent job, but not great. Also, kind of a complicated image here to remove the background. So perhaps on a more straightforward image, that would be easier. Let's see in painting here. I can paint, let's say back here, we want to add a crew, right? So I'll put that there. And I will say add a boat crew in the back. Now we don't have a model, so this might not work. Serve a diffusion model via Cookbook first. So I go back to the Cookbook And it looks like here is a model for that we need to download. So you're going to need to download that local model to edit that image. But in general, all of this is pretty neat here. The things we're able to do right here locally with Odysseus. So that's enough for image generating. Let's take a look now at the rest of the features. One thing that I think is really powerful is the model comparison feature, especially with a provider like Venice, because if you're working on certain tasks each and every day, whether those are chat tasks, agent tasks, searching, researching, you might be curious which model is the best bang for your buck, so to speak. So as we saw earlier, there are plenty of models to choose from, but which one really does the best job and which gives you the best price? So here what we can do is choose a handful of models to accomplish the same task, and then you can vote on which one was the best. So let's take Minimax 3, Google Gemma 4, let's do Kimi 2.6, and let's do a Qwen model, Qwen 3.7 plus. Now all these models are here to learn more about them. They are all fairly priced and they're open source. They're all provided through the Venice provider. If we want to add another test with a local provider, then here we can see, for example, right here, this is a local model. And I'm going to choose sequential mode so we don't hit any rate limit issues. So let's click start. It'll check the models to connect. And now here we are on the competition model comparison screen. Okay, so let's look at the evaluation prompts here. And let's run proof and verify. Prove that the square root of 2 is irrational, then write a Python program that approximates it using Newton's method to 50 decimal places and verify. So now we send that off, and one by one, each agent will work through that assignment. Okay, so we have our results. Now, full transparency. I don't really know what all this means. I don't know what did a good job or not. But we can just look at some of the data here to draw a conclusion based on someone that doesn't know science or math very well. So we don't know which model is which because it's a blind test. We do know that this took 2,300 tokens. That took 1,300, 3,900, and 3,000. So these took less tokens, but took longer, and these took more tokens, but were faster. So let's just say we were looking for time, and all the answers were good, so that we'll vote this one as number 1. Oh, and that was Gemma 4. And now we see the results. So then we can click the score here, and we can see in the agentic category, Gemma 4 has a win of 100%. And if we head back to the compare window, we can actually see the scoreboard at any time. So this is a really cool feature to discern which models are best for your workflows. When you're using a service like Venice with this many models available to you at varying price ranges and various speeds, with the option to go either fully private or anonymous through these frontier models like Claude Opus, then you're going to want to get an idea of what's best if you're going to be running these workflows all the time. So this is a really cool feature of Odysseus. We'll wrap up here by just looking at the rest of the tools. But here we can just do quick adds to the calendar. We can import a calendar. We can make calendars. We can sync with our integrations that we went through earlier. And then if we head over to the tasks, we can actually have Odysseus send us reminders about the calendar, classify events in the calendar, email us, scan emails from our connected email account, and auto add them to the calendar, and just get things done with our calendar right here in Odysseus. The same goes for email. We can get stuff done in our email through these tasks. Chat, tidying our chat sessions. This is active, you can see. It will clean up empty chat sessions and auto sort them into folders right here in the interface. Then you can see what tasks are being run. Looks like there is a skill audit being run right now. 20 minutes ago, our chat sessions were tidied up here. And then here we can add tasks. So we can run a prompt to our agent on a schedule. We can have a prompt sent when an event happens. We can have research done on schedule. Every day, check the news for me. An action can be run on a schedule, or when a webhook is triggered, something can happen. So we can click new tasks and feed this into our agent. Really exciting here. So now here in the deep research window, we can see how we can have our agent run deep research reports for material that might be important for our everyday work. It will run the deep research, make the full report. You can choose which models you want to use. You can adjust the settings, and then they will show up here in the library under research, which I haven't got any in here yet. This library has all your chats. You can upload documents to it, and it can become a catalog of information either for you or your agent. Here in the notes window, we have basic to-do lists and reminders, which will sync with your agent and any tasks you assign to it. You can even draw here for your notes, which is kind of fun, or attach images. So there you have it. That is Odysseus. Remember, when you use OpenAI and Anthropic, they are storing all your conversations and prompts forever, harvesting data about you, selling that to advertisers, potentially handing that over to law enforcement or government agencies when they ask, etc., etc. You don't know what's happening over there. But with Venice, your conversations are not being stored. They're being stored in your browser. If you're using the Venice interface, this stays on my browser, and they're not stored at all as API calls. You have access to all kinds of models, over 250 models across different modalities, which can make your Odysseus workspace just an all-in-one extraordinary place to work. So enjoy and happy building. Hit that subscribe button for more AI tutorials with a focus on privacy.